Have you ever stopped and thought to yourself, what is race? Most people would define race as physical traits that make you part of a certain group, like your skin color, hair type, or facial features. But really, race is just a social construct. Throughout history, race has been used as a tool to maintain and justify systems of oppression, racism, and white supremacy. This is specifically relevant to African Americans who have been consistently targeted for their race. Today, I am going to be discussing the never-ending fight against racial oppression faced by Black lives. It is important to learn about this history because it can help to destroy the oppressive systems that still exist today. One of the most prominent events in history which has used the construct of race to its advantage was slavery. Slavery developed on the basis that Black people looked different from white people. The novel Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome explains that throughout history, cognitive dissonance has been used to justify racism towards Black people to prove that the white race is superior. This means that for white men to feel better about committing horrific acts towards Black people, they created lies to justify their racism. For example, Carl von Linnaeus was a famous 18th century biological scientist who was known for his work on classifying different types of humans. He described Black people as, quote, cunning, lazy, lustful, careless, and governed by caprice, end quote. At the time, Linnaeus was seen as a trustworthy source based on his occupation. Therefore, many believed his racist opinions to be facts. This is where the justification of slavery began. Zinn states, physical differences were merged with status differences and coalesced to form a social hierarchy that placed white at the top and Black at the bottom. Because it was considered a fact at the time that Black people were lesser than the white race, slavery further embedded this so-called fact into society. Even after the adoption of the Constitution, which ensured that all men are created equal, slavery was still flourishing in order to maintain white supremacy. When the 13th Amendment was signed to abolish slavery, new forms of racial oppression began to emerge and persist in place of that system during the Reconstruction era. Black codes, convict leasing, and segregation prevented newly freed slaves from enjoying the freedoms that should have been guaranteed by the 13th Amendment. This included, quote, depriving freed people of civil privileges in areas such as voting, jury service, office holding, the right to bear arms, and most important, land ownership, end quote. Even after everything had been taken from them time and time again, they never quit fighting. Because of their resilience, the civil rights movement emerged, aiming to end segregation and discrimination against Black people. The civil rights movement was a huge moment in history for the Black race. During this period, it became essential for those fighting for their rights to never give up. Quote, the state of living was unbearable. From public lynching to the lack of human rights, the African American community were growing restless under their inhumane treatment. It was activist heroes like Martin Luther King who helped uplift and inspire others, even during these dark moments. One of his achievements was significantly impacting the signing of the Civil Rights Act through his relentless leadership. His endless optimism about the future of Black freedom is what motivated many, even after he was assassinated. Quote, the change was slow, and the fight was long and hard. He believed that with faith they could overcome anything and make the world a better place, end quote. King's legacy lives on today as Black Americans fight through modern-day struggles for racial equality. A modern form of racial injustice against Black people that often goes unnoticed is mass incarceration. There is a disproportionate amount of Black people compared to white people being targeted, accused, and sentenced to crimes. In the novel Just Mercy by Bryan Stevenson, he claims, quote, today we, the U.S., have the highest rate of incarceration in the world. The prison population has increased from 300,000 people in the early 1970s to 2.3 million people today, end quote. Mass incarceration is ignored because of the stereotypes that paint Black people as criminals. This narrative is reinforcing racial hierarchies and continues the historical pattern of racial control in the U.S. Learning about the history of racial injustice towards Black people has allowed me to recognize the inequalities that still exist today. This project is more than just a retelling of the historical fight for justice taken on by African Americans. This is real life. We saw this fight continue in real time in 2020 during the Black Lives Matter protests, which opened the eyes of many to the injustices taking place in the U.S. We heard countless stories and names of real-life people suffering through injustice, which put into perspective how normalized this really is. Uncovering the truth about our systems can be challenging after only knowing false depictions presented to me and many others at a young age. But learning this history and paying attention to the present gives a stronger sense of responsibility to speak out about this ongoing issue. This project has reminded me that without the knowledge of the past, we cannot build a better future. Using your voice is a great way to take action about pressing issues, but another way is donating to nonprofit organizations. The Equal Justice Initiative, or the EJI, is a nonprofit committed to ending mass incarceration and excessive punishment in America. The EJI hopes to challenge and change narratives created about marginalized groups in the U.S. Their work focuses on criminal justice reform, racial justice, helping people living in poverty, and educating communities about racial injustice.